Takadosh Boker or Masechet Sanhedrin Daf Yomi Daf Pevav Amud Aleph 86A1. We're going to start as follows. Tana Kame de Rav Sheshat. There was an Amora that used to teach Braitot in front of Rav Sheshat. Amarle, and he comes and he says like this, Ani Shone, I'm going to teach. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Rabbi Shimon says, Me'echav. It says, Vegonev Nefesh Israel Me'echav. If somebody is going to steal Nefesh Israel from his brothers, Ad Shiotzienu Mireshut Echav. It has to be that he's taking him out from the reshut of the family. Meaning, if somebody steals something, just like yesterday we mentioned about shoplifting, that has to be that you take it out of the store. The exact same thing. In order for it to be considered that a person kidnapped someone else, he has to take him out of the reshut of the family. That Tamartana, you're going to tell me, right? Chayav, that he's going to be chayav. That means that if right now he came and he sold it to the father or the brother, he's going to be chayav. Why chayav? He didn't even take him out of the reshut of the family. So says the Gemara, Ela Tana. Obviously, we learned it's going to be patur. So ask the Gemara, but my kushia, what's the question exactly? Din mahar bishimon, Rabbanan. Maybe there's a machloke between Rabbi Shimon and then Rabbanan, right? The Braita that comes and it says beforehand is Shitat Rabbanan. It's a machloket, right? Tanaim. So he comes and he says, Lo sakadaitach. That's for sure not going to be the case. Tamar Rabbi Yochanan, but says Rabbi Yochanan, Stam matznitin, Rabbi Meir. Remember, whenever you have a Mishnah, Stam, it's a Bimir Balanes. Rabbi Meir. Okay? Stam Tosefta, whenever you have a Tosefta. Remember the Tosefta is at the back of the Gimarot, which they were the outside Mishnayot. That is going to be Rabbi Nehemiah. Stam Sifra. Sifra is like on the Torat Kohanim, on the whether it's going to be on Sefer Vayikra or the other ones, right? Sifra, Sifri, whether it's Bamidbar, Dvarim. Whenever it's a Stam Sifra, which is the Midrashim, Yehuda, Stam Sifri, which is on Bamidbar, Dvarim, going to be Rabbi Shimon. V'kulu alibad Rabbi Akiva. Now everything goes according to Shitat Rabbi Akiva. So therefore, since right now he's teaching a Braita in front of Rav Sheshat and he says Stam Sifri, because when it says Ki Matzeh, right, that's in Dvarim. So obviously it's going according to Shitat Rabbi Shimon and not going according to the Rabbanan. So therefore, obviously he cannot come and say, it's a Stam Sifri, but it's going according to Rabbanan. You can't. It has to be going according to Rabbi Shimon. Okay, fine. Next part of the Gemara. Hagonev beno. Somebody that comes and he steals his son. Okay, so we brought down Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says that he's going to be chayav, and according to Chachamim, he's going to be patur. What's according to why did the rabbi say that a person steals his own son? He's patur. So Amar Abaye says, Damarkra, the pasuk says, Ki matzeh. What does it mean now? Ki matzeh, prat lematzui. We're talking about somebody that's stealing, somebody that's already matzui etzlo, meaning a person's son is readily available for him. He's already there. So when it says that when a person's going to find the person to steal him, it means mamash, he has to find him. It can't be that he's already there. So that's why for the son is going to be patur. So Amaleh Rav Papa Abaye says Rav Papa to Abaye, Ela me'ata. So 1 second. It says in the pasuk, Ki matzeh ish shochev im isha b'ulad ba'al. If a person is going to be found that he slept with a married woman. So hachanami, when you say now the word ki matzeh, it means prat lematzui kagon shel bet ploni, has to be from mishpacha ploni, that they're living in the same house. The shliach gabayu hachanami deptiri. So now they're going to be patur. Meaning, imagine right now you have a few people that are living like in a townhouse or in a condo. Yeah. So now what? Since they're found by them, so now if they come and they start fooling around, so that they don't get killed, because ki matzeh is prat lematzui, and here they're matzui together. So Elmaleh says, I'm not learning it from the word ki matzeh. I'm learning it from v'nimtza biyado. V'nimtza biyado is extra. Meaning, if it was only written ki matzeh, right, or then for sure not. Because if not, just like what you asked. But here, there's an extra 2 words. V'nimtza biyado. Why does he have these? V'nimtza biyado comes to teach you that it's not by your hands. So Rava that says, Hilkach, therefore, Hani mikre dardeke umatznu rabbanan. The ones that are teaching, right, whether it's going to be the children or the mlamdim that they're coming and teaching Mishnah to Chachamim, Kimitsuyam biyadan damu. So it's considered that they're always there. Uptide, so they should be patur. Meaning, for example, you're a Rabbi, right? So we know that, children are, if it's not that they're more time at school, but even if they are less time, it's actually more time because when they're at home, they're actually sleeping. Mm-hmm. So ki'ilu, they're more time in school than anywhere else. You understand? Sometimes people don't realize that. They're much more time. A person has a 9 to 5 job, right? But he goes to Shachrit, and then he travels to work, and then he travels back home. He goes to Mincha Arvit, right? Like a good Jew, right? And then what happens is, and then by the time you come down to it, he's going to be much more time out of the house than in the house. Yeah, he sees his colleagues, right? The co-workers more than what he even sees his wife and children. You understand that that's what's. So now you're going to come and you're going to tell me that. Now says the Gemara, we're by the two dots where it says Ganav Misha Chetzio Aviv Chetzio Ben Chorin. You remember what happens when a person comes and he steals? A person that's half a free man and half a slave. Okay, so we said that according to Rabbi Yehuda is going to be chayav, and according to Chachamim patur. Tanan Hata, we learned over there in a Mishnah Baba Kama, Rabbi Yehuda says, En la'avadim boshet. Do you know that if a person comes and they embarrass or they do something to an eved, right? Do you know that by a human being, you usually have to pay damages, suffering, doctor's bills, unemployment, and how do you call this? An embarrassment. By an eved, there's no embarrassment. I guess the fact that he's already an eved, so there's no embarrassment by the eved. My time of the Yehuda, what's the reasoning of Rabbi Yehuda? Right? He says, Amarkar, the pasuk says, Ki natsu anashim yachtav ish ve'achiv. When you have two men that are fighting together, one to his friend, like a man to his friend, to his brother. Mishiyesh lo achva, somebody that has achva, right? You have to pay boshet. Yatsa eved shen lo achva. But he says that the eved, right? Even if he's with the lo zichta Torah, there's no busha. But Rabbanan, and according to the rabbis, achivu b'mitzvot. No, he's still your brother. B'mitzvot, he's chayav in all the mitzvot. He's chayav in the mitzvot like a woman. But he's chayav in mitzvot. V'hacha, but over here, hechidad Yishub Yehuda. What does the Yehuda say? Savari says, when it says, Ki matze ish konev nefesh me'echav mibnei Yisrael, me'echav zlapu ke'avadim. It's coming to exclude avadim. Bnei Yisrael is coming lemiute mi shechetzo eve chetzo ben chorin. Mibnei Yisrael lemiute mi shechetzo eve chetzo ben chorin. Have miut achar miut. Ve'en miut achar miut ela lerabot. Remember that when you have a double negative, what does it become? A positive. Mm-hmm. So if you already have a minimization, which means that you're coming to exclude a limitation, and the limitation is going to be that you learn it from Bnei Yisrael, and then you have another limitation from mi Bnei Yisrael, not Bnei Yisrael, from mi Bnei Yisrael. So for why do you have a double? So therefore it comes to include. It's coming to include that if somebody steals an eved, chetzi ben chorin, he's going to be chayav. But according to the rabbis, when it says me'echav, they don't say when it says me'echav, it doesn't come to exclude avadim. Tehachi b'mitzvot, he's still your brother mitzvot. So bnei Yisrael mi bnei Yisrael eved, right? He says one of them chal miut eved, v'chal miut chetzi or eved. Meaning like this: if you're going to tell me again, the rabbis l'shitatam, that when it says me'echav, it doesn't exclude an eved because technically he's still achiv b'mitzvot. He's still obligated in mitzvot. Mm-hmm. So therefore, if the word right, me'echav does not exclude avadim. So now you have two words of Bnei Yisrael. So one of them is to exclude avadim, and one of them is to exclude an eved, which is a half-free slave, meaning half free and half a slave. So therefore, I don't have an extra one. According to Rabbi Yehuda, since both of them were coming to exclude double negative equals a positive, now you're going to be chayav. But according to the rabbis, if you only have me'echav, and me'echav does not exclude an eved, echav because he's your brother, mitzad mitzot. So therefore you have two bnei Yisrael, one is for an eved, and one is chetzio eved v'chetzio ben chorim. Azara. When we're talking about right now an azara legonev nefesh shinayim, how do we know you're not allowed to steal someone, to kidnap someone? We know that the Torah teaches you the death penalty for doing so. But what about the azhara? So he says, Rabbi Yoshi says, Mid lo tignov. In the Ten Commandments, it says, Lo tignov. Rabbi Yochanan says, Milu yimacheru mimkeret aved. You're talking about that you're not allowed to sell a slave. So he says, even though the Pashuta, you're not allowed to sell an Eved Ivri, just like you sell an Eved Kenani, right? They're coming and they're saying, so it's a nazara to kidnapping as well. Meaning if you can't sell an Eved Ivri, right? Just like you would sell an Eved Kenani, so imagine that you can't sell another Jew. Velo pligi, but there's no difference between them. There's no machlok between them. Mor kachashiv lav de gneva, mor kachashiv lav de mechira. Each one was talking about a different avera. One of them was teaching about the avera of gneva, the stealing of the person, and the other one was speaking about the avera of the selling of the person. So first of all, you're not allowed to steal another Jew, and you're not allowed to sell another Jew. Okay, so there's two different averot. Tanu Rabbanah, we learned in the Braita, lo tignov, right? When it says lo tignov, begonev nefashot hakatuv meduber. We're talking about gonev nefashot, meaning some people come and they think that the 10 Commandments, when it says lo tignov, it means you're not allowed to steal from someone. No, there it's talking about gonev nefashot, kidnapping. Okay, so lo tignov, right? But gonev nefashot hakatuv meduber. Atau gonev nefashot, do you say it's going to be gonev nefashot, or maybe it's going to be gonev mamon? So Marta, so we're going to say tzel ma mishlosh midot shatorah nideresh bahen. Remember that there's always going to be the 13 attributes of how you learn the different parts of the Torah. One of them is davar alamem minyano. One of them is that you're going to learn it from the inyan that you're talking about over there. So he says, what is the pasuk talking about? Nefashot. Because again, those are the 10 commandments of everything that has to do with being killed. Lo tirtzach, lo tinaf, right? So when it says lo tignov, it's a continuation. Meaning, lo tirtzach, what's the death penalty if a person kills somebody?
So we killed.
Yes, what's the death penalty? Okay. Remember, I'm always testing you. Hereg. Hereg is saif, by the sword. Okay, so therefore, right, that means it doesn't matter how the guy kills, right? He always gets killed by the sword. Hereg, okay, which is saif. Saif is a sword. So therefore, there, or lotinaf, adultery. What does adultery get? Huh? Chenek, strangulation. Right? So therefore, Eshet Isha strangulation. Of course. Yeah. But it's a lower one. Yes, 100%. Yeah. So therefore, what we're trying to say is it's a machloket between Rabbi Shimon and Chachamim if it's lower now. But we hold that it's lower, yes. So therefore, what happens though is that he comes and he says, since lo tirtzach and lo tinaf and all these things is talking about what? We're talking about death penalties, meaning we're talking about life and death. So when it says ki tignov, it's not talking about that I stole your watch. It's talking about I kidnapped the person. Right, because that way there's going to be a death penalty.
About life.
Huh? Yeah. Tanya idach, right? We learned in another braita. Lo tignovu. It says you're not allowed to steal. There, meaning in Vayikra Yutet, there when it says lo tignovu, there we're talking about money. Ata omer, you're going to tell me nefashot. So Amarta tel ma mishosh midot shetorah you know, but what is the pasuk talking about over there? Mamon. But it says lo ta'ashok et re'acha ve'lo tigzol. So to here we're talking about mamon, meaning like this. When I want to find out what the terminology is referring to, what the Torah is referring to, look around what's going on. So by the 10 Commandments, it's all death penalties. So if it's death penalties, so I'm going to say it's going to be good nefashot. There we were talking about good mamon. So we were meaning things to do with money. So therefore we're talking about good mamon. Okay? Itmar, it was stated. It says that, right, if you have one group of witnesses on the gneva and the other group of witnesses on the mechira, meaning two witnesses come and they say, John Doe, yeah, I hope he's listening, right, comes and he stole someone. And then another two groups of witnesses come and they say, John Doe went and he sold someone.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So he says, right, Shehuzmu, that they became Edeh, Edim, Zomemim. Chizkiah comes and he says, and Neragim, they don't get killed. Rabbi Yochanan says, Neragim, they are going to be killed from Kasher Zaman. Remember, whatever they plotted to do to somebody else, they get it to themselves. Chizkiah holds like Rabbi Kiva Damar, but he says, Tavar velo chatzi davar. What does that mean? We know that Edut has to be on a full package. It cannot be even partial it. And here, each group of witnesses is testifying only on half of the package. Because the Edut of Gneva without Mechira does not, a person is only going to be chayav for kidnapping when it's Vegonev Ish, right? Mechav Mucharo, and he sells him. Meaning if a person only kidnaps him, but he doesn't sell him off, he's still not chayav the mitah. Right? So he says, and the Edut of the Mechira is without the Gneva. So therefore each one is testifying on half of the story. And if you have somebody that says like on half of the story, nothing happens. Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rabbanan, the Amri, davar, afilu chatzi davar. That it's davar even if it's going to be on half of it. However, though the Chizkiyahu comes and he admits to do with edim on Ben Sorim Mureh, sheuzmu, that they became edim zomim, sheneragim, that they are going to be killed. Why? Meaning that what happens if you have two witnesses coming and saying that he did it? That means there are two different groups. Okay, so he says, right, you need to do the first time around, and then you need the second time around. So he says, because the first witnesses could come and they could say, 86b, we only wanted to come to give him lashes. Meaning when he did this the first time around, we didn't want to kill him. We only just wanted to give him lashes. Now the last group of witnesses are the ones that are obligating the death penalty, meaning the dut was a davar shalem already, to give him lashes. So therefore the second group, so therefore it is considered a davar, right? And therefore the second group is completely separate from the first one, right? Meaning, if you're going to tell me right now that you need to start a process, so you have two witnesses coming and testifying, he stole. Now you start a process. You need the other two witnesses coming and saying, he sold the guy. So now each one is testifying on half of a story. But if the first two witnesses come and they say, listen, this guy is a Ben Sorim Mureh, and they come and they give him lashes. So they already come, and when they're giving lashes, that's already a full story. The second witnesses are coming, they're going to testify, and then they're going to kill him as a Ben Sorim Mureh. But one second, but even without that, the first group already gave a full davar. They already gave a full story. So Matkif Rav Papa comes and he asks, if so, even the edim which are selling should also get killed. Because they could come and they could say that they just came to give lashes. And if you're going to tell me that according to Chizkiah, they're not going to get the lashes. It was stated that when you have a geneva, right, benefet that they were huzmu. Chizkiah Rabbi Yochanan chadam alokim. There's machloket. Do you say that he gets lashes or not? Which means that somebody that comes and he testifies on the stealing and not on the selling does not get lashes. But it says that we do say the geneva is a machloket, do they get lashes or not? So we wanted to say Tisayem the Chizkiah the Maloki. The Chizkiah is the one that said that they do get lashes. The Chizkiah en neragim. He says they don't get killed. To eat Rabbi Yochanan, as if you're going to tell me now, it's Rabbi Yochanan, since he already said that they get killed, so then it's a lav shenitan azarat mitab betin. It's a negative commandment which is given for an azarat betin, meaning when they're going to come and they're going to testify falsely. So that's a warning that they're not allowed to do that. And any type of a warning, which is azarat mitab betin, they don't get lashes on the hand. Okay? Ihu lolake. If the defendant does not get the lashes, inu echilaki. So then how do they get the lashes? Meaning, kasher zama means you get what you plotted to do. But the question though is, if the defendant, the litigant, would have never gotten lashes, so then how in the world are they going to get lashes? Okay, so he answers, Ela amar Rav Papa, but rather Rav Papa says, Be'edeh mechira dechule amalo pligye d'ne'aragin. By Edeh mechira, according to everybody, they're going to be killed. Everybody says that, right? He says, Kipligis, when is machloket then? Be'edeh geneva. When we're talking about now, Edeh geneva. Chizkiah amar n'aragin, Chizkiah comes and he said that they're not going to be killed. Geneva lechuda kaima, because the geneva is by itself, and the mechira is by itself, meaning each one is on its own, it's separate. You've got the person stealing, and then the person selling the one that they kidnapped, right? So he says that he kidnapped. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Nenagim, they're going to be killed. Geneva atchalta de mechirahi. Why? It's the beginning of the process. Meaning when you come and you steal, that's already the beginning of the selling of this guy. You need to steal him. So therefore it's the beginning of the process.
Like the brothers?
Which one?
Like the brothers?
Well, then Rabbi Yochanan, so Rabbi Yochanan is going to admit the first witnesses of Ben Sorim Mureh shuzmu she'en neragim, that they're not going to be killed, mitoch she'icholin lomar, because we could say, right, le'alkoto banu. They came to what? They came to give the lashes. Okay? Amar Abaye. Abaye says, Hakol modim, everybody agrees, whether it's Chizki and Rabbi Yochanan, everyone agrees, Ben Soren Umore, by Ben Soren Umore, that if they get Hazama, they're not killed. Hakol modim, Ben Soren Umore, Machloket, Ben Soren Umore. How does that work? It says, Hakol modim, Ben Soren Umore. That what? That they're not going to be killed. Hakol modim, Ben Soren Umore, that they do get killed. And there's a Machloket by Ben Soren Umore. How does that work? I'm going to give you one case, Ben Soren Umore. And I'm going to tell you, Hakol modim, what's going on? So let's explain. Number one, the first witnesses are not going to be killed. Because they came and they said, we just wanted to come and give him lashes. So therefore everything was talking about this. Yeah? Fine. Next, he says, two witnesses come and they say that he stole in front of us. Meaning the son came and he stole the money in front of us. And two of them came and said that he ate the meat in front of us. Remember, by Ben Soden Morer is that he comes, he steals the money, and then he comes and he eats, he buys the meat and he starts eating the meat in front of them. So in such a case, there it's going to be a machloket, right? Because of davar. Let's see davar. Okay, you remember we said about the half of the testimony or not, half of the story. So that was a machloket. So Ravasi says, Edeh mechira benefesh, when they testify about that somebody comes and that they sold a person, but they didn't testify about the stealing. Sheuzmu, and then they're also not going to be killed because the guy could have said, "Listen, I sold my slave." So Rav Yosef said, "K'man hashmata deravasi," because obviously like Rabbi Akiva, but he says davar velo chatzi davar, that it's only on davar and not chatzi davar. He would be chatzi davar, because if you're only testifying about the selling and you didn't testify about the stealing, it's a chatzi davar. So Abaye says, the ikra banan, if you're going to tell me it's the rabbis, neheragim, they're going to be killed. Hamitoch kaman. He says, Ravasi says they're going to be peturim because he could have just said that I sold my slave. Why in the world? Somebody asked, what are you doing? What are you selling? I'm selling my slave. He was my slave. But even if you're going to tell me it's Rabbanan, the Edeh Geneva never came. So if Edeh Geneva never came, so therefore that's why they're not going to be killed. So says Gemara, so obviously, if you only have two witnesses coming on the sale and not on the stealing, so obviously he's not going to be killed. Yeah, he's your guy. He was your Eved and you sold him. Why would you be killed? So he says, what are we talking about? The Afal Gav, so they did come. They came at the end. But still saying, what is the chidush then? So the Kamram Zirumuze. Right? He says the din of Ravasi is that the two edim were hinting to each other. So I would have said that these hints are already enough. That means when they came and they were testifying about they knew that the other group was coming. Right? So he says, Kamashmalan Ramiza laf klumu. Ramiza is nothing at the end of the day, because until they don't know about the sale, the stealing, it's nothing there. Okay? Fine. Mishnah. Pe'amubet the Mishnah. Says the Mishnah, Zaken Mamre al pi bedin. Remember that a Zaken Mamre gets killed, right, through the Bedin Gadol. Remember, Zaken Mamre is when you have an elderly person in the Bedin, and he's a Dayan, but he goes against the entire other Bedin. So he's on the Bedin, but he's a Zaken Mamre. He's a rebellious Zaken. Why? Because he goes against everybody else. So it says Zaken Mamre is going to be killed of Ibn Shnemar, right? And they're going to have he's going to die. Now remember, whenever it says mita stam means chenek. Whenever it says the mita in the Torah and it doesn't tell you anything else, it's chenek. Stam mita ba'amura b'Torah is chenek. Shlosha batin danim. Do you know there were three different bedins in Yerushalayim? Echad yoshev petach harbayit. One of them, which was in the entrance of the harbayit, which is by the Hazara Nashim. Echad petach hazara. One of them, which was on the entrance of the Hazara. Echad yoshev lishkat hazit. And then you had the one which was right lishkat hazit, which is chetzi l'chol, chetzi l'kodesh. Right? Ba'im lezeh shel petach harbayit. They used to come to the first one, which was at the entrance of the harbayit. And they said, this is what I was doresh, and this is what my friends were doresh. This is what I taught, and this is what my friends taught. If right now they heard it, omrim lahem, so they come and they say, right, v'im lav, and if not, yeah, ba'in lahem lo'otan shal petach. They used to come to the one on the entrance of the Hazara. The Omer, and they used to say, the Zaken used to say, kach darashim, kach teshua chavrai, kach limati, kach limdu chavrai. Im shamu, again, if they heard it from their rabbis, so omrim lahem, so they say it. Yeah, they have a Kabbalah like that. V'im lav, and if not, elu v'elu, everybody come in front of the Bet Din HaGadol shel Lishkat Kazit, shemenu yitzet Torah lechol Yisrael, shneimar, in makom hahu asher yivchar Hashem. Chazar li'iro, right? V'shana v'limed derech shaya lamed. So now what happens right now if they were already machriya the safek? Meaning again, this is a ken mamreh, he knows his stuff. You're not talking about somebody that he's on a bedin, but he's rebellious. Exactly. So therefore he comes and he tells the bedin, this is what I heard. They come and they say, no, you're wrong. Okay. If he goes back to the city and he teaches it that way, now they already paskin that he's wrong. So if he comes and he goes and that, so he says over here, he's going to be patur. But, one second. But if he paskins that way, meaning, if he taught it that way,
which way?
He's patur. His way. Obviously, if he teaches it their way, it's fine. If he teaches it his way, he's going to be patur. But if he paskins like that, then he's chayav. Shneimar v'aish asher yaseh b'zadon eno chayav shiyoreh lasot. He's only chayav on the psak. Meaning, as long as he didn't give a psak, he's still going to be patur. Okay?
Crazy, because they're going to paskin like that after him. If they teach it.
Of course. Well, okay, in Echanam, you're right, but at the end of the day, but it has to be right. Has to be
it has to be presented as a teaching, not as a rule.
Yes.
Okay.
Talmid shehora la'asot. What happens if you have a talmid that was not magia lehora? Meaning you have a guy that he's not a posek, and he starts paskening alachot. He argues on the bedin in the city, right? Vehora la'asot. Here he's going to be patur. Why? Because there's no din zaken mamreh only by a mumche that you're able nimtza chumro hulo. So it comes out that the chumrah on the talmid, so they came and they were machmir on him that he can't come and start paskening, is actually the kula that saves him, because you don't take him seriously. Imagine right now somebody comes and he says, this is what you're a rabbi, you're a mandama, you're somebody that you could actually even paskin. So if you come and you say such a that, so that's the chumrah so that's your kula, because now it just saved you from death. Because the fact that anyway that you're not going to rely upon him because he's not a part of the bedin, so therefore that's actually saves the person from death. Okay.